Problem number 1. If z and t are negative integers and z minus t is equal to 7, what is the least possible value for z times t? So I have the product of z times t, and we want that to be the least possible value. Now both are negative integers, z and t, and that's just going to give me a positive integer. Now if we look at this number line here and we multiply, let's say negative 10 times negative 8, that gives me positive 80. And if I multiply negative 6 times negative 4, that gives me positive 24. So as you can see, as I'm approaching 0, the product of those two negative numbers becomes smaller and smaller, right? From 80 to 24. And now the lowest number, or not the lowest, but the closest number, negative integers, closest to 0, it's negative 1. So I know, going back to my formula over here, I know that one of these two letters, z or t, has to be equals to negative 1. So let's go back to the formula. Z minus t is equal to 7. One of those two has to be negative 1 for me to get the least possible value of the product of those two negative integers. Now let's say if I substituted in the letter t. So I have z minus negative 1 equals to 7. So I have z, negative and negative is plus 1, equals to 7. So that means the z has to be equals to 6. 6 plus 1 is equal to 7. However, z cannot be equals to 6 because, again, if we look at the problem, both integers, z and t, are negative. So this is not going to work. So now let's try to reverse the numbers and use negative 1 and substitute it in the letter z, and let's see what we come up with. Let me just erase this. And let me go back to substitute negative 1 for letter z, and then I have minus t equals to 7. So I have negative 1 minus what number would give me 7? If I substitute t for negative 8, that will give me the number 7. I have negative 1, and then negative and negative, that's positive 8, and then negative 1 plus 8, that is equal to 7. So now I know the value for both of them. Z is equal to negative 1 and t is equal to negative 8. Both integers negative, and when I multiply z times t, that is equal to negative 1 times negative 8, and the product there, it's equal to positive 8. And that is the answer. The answer here is letter D, 8. Problem number 2. If x is not 0 or 1, a fraction equivalent to 1 over x over 5 minus 3 over x is. Now, to simplify a complex fraction, we look at the smaller fractions within the complex fraction and multiply the entire complex fraction by the least common denominator of these two smaller fractions. So in this case, the least common denominator between 1 over x and 3 over x, it's going to be x. So we multiply the entire complex fraction by x. Multiply the numerator by x and the denominator by x. So we have x times 1 over x. X cancel with x. It gives me 1. And I have x times 5. That's 5x. Minus. And then I have x times 3 over x. The x cancel with the x. I'm left with 3. So the simplified answer for that complex fraction, it's 1 over 5x minus 3. So the answer here for problem number 2, it's letter B. Problem number 3. If 40% of a number is 32, what is 25% of the number? Alright, let's write the notation for that. So 40% of a number. We're going to call that number, I'm going to call it x, of x is equal to 32. Now 40%, you can just write as a decimal, it's 0.4. Of its time, x is equal to 32. So now I can divide both sides by 0.4. So that means that x is equal to 32 divided by 0.4. And you can use your calculator to get that division. That's going to be equals to 80. So now I know that x is equal to 80. That is the number. Now the question is, what is 25% of the number? So I have to write another statement. I have to say 25% of 80 is equal to what? So 25%, that's 0.25. Of, again, is times 80 is equal to what number? Again, you can use your calculators to multiply 0.25 times 80, and that is going to be equals to 20. So the answer here for problem number 3, it's 20. The answer is letter A. Problem number 4. If this expression over here, RTUS, is defined as being equals to T times U times S plus R, what this expression over here, 10,234 minus 7125, is equals to? Alright, so let's see what is this expression is defined by. They give us the formula over here. Is defined by this formula over here. T times U times S plus R. So it's T times U times S and then plus R at the end. So using this formula, we're gonna evaluate this expression over here. So let's follow the formula over here. So it's gonna be 2 times 3, that's 6, times 4 is 24, and then plus 10, that's equal to 34. Then we have a minus. Now let's use the same formula to evaluate this other expression. So I have 1 times 2, that's 2, times 5, it's 10, plus 7, it's 17. So that evaluates to 34 minus 17, and that is equal to 17. The answer is letter C.